Theoretical. I think I should give Eli a kiss on the forehead. Practical. He'll like it.
He's busy still Great Crusading around a little bit, making sure the Empire is going well. He's the greatest Paradox game player of all time. That's the real reason he privately was the one day like maybe Horus should have won. He heard Skibbity Riz. He's like, yeah, it's over.
My lord, you've been out for 6-7 years. 6-7.
6-7.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to LoreCrimes, and it's almost Christmas. Merry Christmas.
No, Merry Christmas, boys.
Merry Christmas.
We're so excited. And thank you. Before we ramble into the episode like we always do, welcome everybody. Today we're talking about the bestest boys, the poster boys, perhaps the most succulent men. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm talking about Ultramarines, guys.
I don't know where this is ending.
Let's say Colin's already oiled up and ready to go.
Of course.
We want to talk to you guys about not just the Ultramarines, but maybe things in the lore that not everybody knows, because a lot of people know about Ultramarines. It just happens. That's the thing. Ultramarines, everybody knows about them. They're on the, they're on the box art, they're on everything. They have the amazing posters, all that cool stuff. But let's learn about things that make them actually cool. But to be fair, we need to start with the basics. I do think, Colin, you should take it away, because we do have, maybe not everyone is fully aware of Ultramarines, because it would be crazy, but for the fantasy people who are initiated.
Indeed. If you've been living in Iraq for the past, 30 years of Games Workshop history, and you miss this minor unknown group of Space Marines,
or you've played any video game ever, it's like, who's on the Space Marine 2 cover? Ultramarines. Who's in the new
and the Space Marine 1
Space
cover?
Marines with the Ultramarines. Oh, who was in this? Blood Ravens. That's the one-off you get. That's the only other one.
Who's the singular named character we saw in the Total War 40k trailer? Marnius
Calcar.
Who's in Bolt Gun.
Was Eli's favorite chapter, hands down.
I like the Ultramarines.
Look, I can't help it if, there can only be one greatest of them all. I think that'll be the foreword of this episode.
We'll point out before people do want to address it, Colin is currently getting something under the desk, which is he's having his house painted. So before anyone's like, what's that weird stuff? Don't worry about it. Colin's just getting a little bit of help under the desk. It's all good.
Crazy.
We pay people for this stuff. We pay people for this.
When I click on our live on my PC, it takes me to the mobile, and when I click on the live on our mobile on my phone, it takes me to the regular live.
I think
unbelievable.
I think your stuff is just whack, dude.
Do you want us to give like a basic rendition of Ultramarines, or do you have something prepared that you want us to go into?
I've got something just something light prepared, right?
Go for it, man.
There's this is something everything has to have a template, right? If you want to make, you need to make a standard before you can start mixing things up. You got to have its basics down. Like, before you can start subverting expectations, you got to meet them, right? You got to have a grasp of the basics. And while in universe, yes, the Dark Angels were the Space Marine. I feel outside of universe, it is only becoming more and more clear, and even in universe, as the time ticked onward, that the Ultramarines, they are that basic. They are the standard line of Space Marine. You can have a lot of chapters have their own cultures. A lot of things are, have more unique things. I should say more unique, but they have like pretty variant things about them. But when you're looking at a Space Marine chapter, more often than not, you are going to find they are Ultramarines, but X. Not always with, the big named one. Ooh, Lord. It'll stabilize.
I don't know, but do you think they're more like, I would take them as when we say like basic, I think we mean more like Swiss Army knife in a sense of...
Yeah, basic, it's not necessarily boring. These are the fellas who...
So the guy is right at your door.
He painted.
The fact you put it, I'm getting something under the table didn't help either.
I like the fact that it's just like Colin said they're doing some painting, but I'm just imagining just a whole room full of miniatures and they're just there like priming them all, like hundreds upon
I think,
thousands.
to be fair, we should say, like, as much as there are parts that people do know about Ultramarines, many other chapters in the Imperium we have to put in the context of like 10,000. There's been 10,000 years of Imperial history, so people like the Ultramarines it's quite amazing that they almost have kept to what we'll go into later, which is like a Codex Astartes template. Colin will explain more about that in a bit, but many other chapters, like just to give it context for this actual like episode, many other chapters and many other places in the Imperium, after 10,000 years, you're gonna culture changes within like a decade almost. So you can imagine, like, it's amazing that the Ultramarines, in some sense, have a continuation of a culture that's lasted 10,000 years and is almost recognizable even to someone who has 31st millennium perspective, though, which I find quite cool. I do.
To be fair, they're the only one who have like, hey, we have an entire micro empire just for ourselves. Like, oh, that's kind of fancy. I want an empire. I want a micro empire.
I
wish I could just own that.
I think so, yeah. But with Ultramarine stuff in general, I mean, with it being, it's Space Marines, and we're talking about the most standard template of Space Marines. I think a lot of people maybe don't understand like the general sense of like, it's because there's so much variation in Warhammer lore. It is unique in a sense to have this established culture where it's a formation of like 10,000 years of like isolated, and it's stayed quite close to their traditions of, I mean, it's not hard to explain, which is like, it is very Roman Empire. I ask if people, I mean, I don't know what era of Rome maybe we would highlight too, but I think it's very, maybe not, obviously, I hope most people do maybe catch on to this if they didn't know about Warhammer lore yet, but the writers very clearly based Ultramarines off of Roman Empire and Roman history, which Colin does have a history degree on, so he can explain a lot more about that though. But they are pretty, I like their iconography, I like their stuff. I don't know if Ultra itself is obviously a Greek symbol, but I guess maybe not everyone knew that, but there's a cool part, which is that, space, like Ultramarines in general, they are, again, like imagine Caesar itself is almost like a continuation of what like Roman ideals, republic, although they do have the Imperium of Man, which obviously is a empire Imperium. So
and wait for the day then Ultramarines in battle, and instead of shouting something about Gillam, he's like, for the Republic. It's like, hang on, that's not yours. Put that back.
Now hang on a minute.
That's something
Copyright.
Oh no. But I think that poor painter.
I'm wondering how while the spray and pray is going on at Collins,
it's a vacuum. It's cleaning up like shit.
Yeah. But like I'm pretty sure, Colin, you said, oh, you might need some like assistance with the Horus Heresy Ultramarine stuff. Do you want me and Hal to maybe just like talk about that for a little bit? Give you a bit of a bit of time for them to
give it some cool down time if you'd like.
Yeah. Do you want to take away, Andy? Do you want to begin with?
All right. Well,
maybe some parts that not everyone will know, because Ultramarine is pretty light in the Horus Heresy. They're not like the main feature.
Yeah,
are they?
I mean, long story short, they even during the Horus Heresy, they were the biggest legion. They had like 250,000 Astartes. They also were spared from the Siege of Terra. They didn't do much fighting compared to other legions during the actual heresy itself, because they were specifically taken very far away from the conflict in order to not get the biggest legion involved. And so they also were kind of the default inheritors of the Imperium as we know it. Even going through the new Ashes of the Imperium book, one of the big arcs of that book is about how they weren't here to defend Terra, and all of a sudden they're the ones who are not only like bringing order, but they're bringing food supplies and rations and water and infrastructure. And it's like, yeah, these guys aren't just soldiers; they're diplomats. They are senators and politicians. They are administrators. They do the whole 9 yards in that regard. And so they're very, even though it's not the most like exciting or the sexiest thing to be like, I'm really good at admin. It's like, yeah, but it is important. We do need accountants and other things like that. But during
we'll
go for it.
I was gonna say, Andy, do you recall, because this is a part of people, if they look at like box art and current things at the moment, they might obviously see like particularly sergeants as well. They have red helmets as well. But I don't know if you want to specifically tell, because this is actually a piece of it's actually heresy lore, how this originates into what would be then copied into other legiones, or what was when they were legions, into chapters as well, because it's not it's technically current lore. But do you remember the story of why? Because originally as a legion, they didn't have different colored helms necessarily in other sort of formations, particularly what would be like a chapter formation later. It was no obvious saying sergeants have different colored helmets or anything like that. Do you remember the story of how the Ultramarines got the red helmet, the iconic sergeant one?
Weirdly enough, there is a thing in common with the Ultramarines and Night Lords in that for a while they used red markings on different parts of their armor as like a form of censure. So while Sevatarian had red gauntlets, which was like your death marked, your life belongs to the Primarch, with the original Ultramarines Legion, if you had red on your helmets, it was a mark of censure that you were going to be, answering for a crime or some such. And there was a sergeant called Aenid Teal, and he was like, hey, we've conquered the known galaxy. We're all good about preparing for the unexpected. We like to make fort games about what might happen in the future. And they have that whole thing of something practical, theoretical, practical. Theoretical. I think I should give Eli a kiss on the forehead. Practical. He'll like it. Okay. So it's that kind of, here's your what would you get? Not supposition. And here's the reality.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so Aenid was censured for basically saying, I think we should look into fighting Space Marines because we're the only ones left. We know how to fight Eldar and orcs and all that, but we need to know how to fight Space Marines.
Which is crazy that came from an Ultramarine, considering all the other temperaments of other chapters and legions in the future. It came from a goody boy Ultramarine.
And this is before the heresy, so they're like, that's blasphemy. We're going to arrest you and put you on trial for that. And also, Field is a bit of a weirdo, even for the Ultramarines, where if you look at any of his art, he has all these white chalk scribblings all over his armor, and it's he's always jotting things down and taking notes and being like, that's a good idea. Let me just put it here so I don't forget. And he basically was the one who's we need to learn how to fight Space Marines. He was on the ship, the Macragge's Honor, when it was infested by demons during the No Fear book, I believe it was.
I think so, yeah.
He's basically in Gilliman's personal chambers waiting for the Primarch to cast judgment on him, and then demons invade the ship, and he starts looking at his armory and goes that looks useful. I'm just gonna borrow this, and then he leads a ragtag group of void crewmen and mutants and just naval officers, and he gives them all the weapons of the Primarchs, and they're like, they shouldn't have. Who are these guys? And they're like, yeah. We've got to fight demons now. That arrest is going to have to wait. And because he was so instrumental in thinking outside the box, now sergeants of the chapter, as it stands today, have red helmets to mark that they are a sergeant, as a reference to Aenid Teal. And there are other colors, like my character here. He's got a white helmet that's for veterans. You do have little adornments like laurel wreaths, which are very fitting for the Ultramarines. But Ultramarines are also the most sticklers for the rules. They are literally the most codex compliant chapter there is. So they are very picky about this is where this goes, and this is the pauldron trim you have, and this is what your helmet color means, and everyone follows suit from what they do. And it mainly originates from Aenid Teal. So yeah, a little bit of
I have a fun part just before we let Colin rip, which is because of it. Because it's again, we're inspired by Roman Republic-esque history and things, and the Primarch Rebute Gilliman is known to be a man of peace / man who would invest in Gilliman makes empires, and the way to make empires is you often make peace with your enemy, which is something he learned after the murder of his father, Conor Gilliman, who was a mortal man. Which is even in the heresy to what is to the modern day of the modern 42nd millennium of essentially Ultramarine and Macraggian lore, they have the problem called the Illyrian Quarter, which I need to make sure, Colin, is a reference to maybe the Illyrians who roam.
I mean, it's just the same name. That's what I assume.
It's it is a reference to it. It's a cool thing because not everyone will know that, but it's a reference to history in which essentially the Illyrians, I might be talking about my arse here, but the Illyrians are essentially what were a tribe in what is modern day Italy, and they were rivals of Rome until they were eventually subsumed into Rome.
Yeah,
and
a
the
lot of them
Illyrian,
were like the Balkans too, like right across the sea.
and essentially the Illyrian quarter is a problem throughout the heresy of the Ultramarines, and even there's like every time there's like a bit of like heresy that pops up during like the 42nd millennium or all throughout Macragge's history, it's coming from the Illyrian quarter, because the Ultramarines themselves learn, like, they make, in some sense, they make peace with their enemies, and therefore it's always a problem for Ultramarines, because where other legions would just like, we'd eliminate the problem, annihilate the whole thing, wipe the slate clean. Ultramarines are more willing to talk, which means you make peace with enemies who therefore keep hatred going for a long time. But that's like a cool detail of like the heresy era, which is still continuing on. But I'll let Colin rip.
This sounds a lot like Eldar Apologia to me. Is that why they sided with the Inari? We just want to be friends with the Inaris, not because there's a hot lady in charge. Oh, I see.
No,
I see.
Legendary 40K fan take: not killing people at random is good. Or is bad.
But to be fair, as we say, like, from what is the earlier 31st millennium, when there was the rise of Macragge with Guilliman, to the 42nd millennium, the Ultramarines are essentially a bulwark against the Bastion in the modern times. They are Marines who will appear in most conflicts because they are the symbol. And the reason, Colin will explain, like, they are a template, and I'll let Colin rip, because there's a reason why the Ultramarines are the template to so many other chapters and essentially even other Space Marines throughout the entire 42nd millennium to Horus Heresy.
Indeed. But as with all, we'll start with all Space Marines, right? All of them kind of have the same origin. If you ever talk about Space Marines, you always go back to that point one, right? Big E in his lab doing some science. He had, we already made the Custodes, which they're the Custodes. They're kind of, the top of the game for super soldiers, but a little too expensive to make that your whole army, right? That's a
lot of points on the table, boys.
Yeah, man, that's not cost.
Yeah. That shouldn't be an army, according to Eli.
Should not be.
Yeah,
get him out of here.
And meanwhile, he also had the Thunder Warriors. They're stronger than Space Marines. They're more good in a fight. They're not great soldiers. They're a little bit too much loose cannons, and their genes also might not be the most stable things on the planet. So, they were a tool, and they did their task well. It's time to move on, right? So he makes the Space Marines, and the 13th Legion, of course, would become the Ultramarines. Although now, at this point, they're still the Warborn. They're known as, because they were taken from the kind of all over Terra in the Unification Wars. They didn't really participate in the Unification Wars. They were kind of cooked up at the end, but they were taken from realms that were very shattered, razed to the ground, not quite destroyed though.
Do you wonder if this is a reference to, because again, I think it maybe links to someone cooking a bit with Roman history here, where many of the Roman legions essentially were formed of, I'm about to say donations. That's not the same thing. They took in tides. Many of their forces are formed of Germanic tribes / people from all across the empire to then be formed into Roman legions that would then go and fight in various places. I don't know if it's a little subtle nod. Do you think, Colin?
Could be a reference to that, but it also could be the other standard Roman practice of you may join us, or we're going to burn down your home, and whoever's left will join us.
That one.
It could also be that one. The nice subtle practice of we'll be nice the first diplomat. And then the second one is going to be you will be joining no matter what. So it could also be a little bit of that. So we get the Warborn. Their first major battle is they were actually part of the Great Crusade early on, because you get to start Great Crusade starts with Luna, take back the moon, and they performed well there. They did good work, and their gene seed was noted early on, even this early on, to be remarkably stable and adaptable. it rarely goes wrong, which in comparison to some other legions, that's a pretty nice feature.
There is a part of the lore where I think, because not everyone would have read this, but I think it's in a Korax book where Gilliman has a conversation with Korax, because Korax mentions, I don't know if it is Korax, might have to correct me, Andy, but it was someone saying how they were worried because the gene seed that was implanted in their sons was not super stable. And then Gilliman actually answers back like, hey, not everyone, like sometimes men just simply die, even with my seed, which is hilarious.
And even during the Horus Heresy, there were a couple of Ultramarine traitors. People don't talk about that. Like, some of them were traitors.
Spaghetti-o.
It does happen. But with that being like, by the standards of everything, that it is still very stable. And a lot of that, like at least how I've always read it as, is it's not that the gene seed wasn't stable, it's that you were not quite making the cut to be a Space Marine, because not everyone handles it. Sort of an inherent problem with it. Sometimes it just doesn't take, and if it doesn't take, you're kind of just gonna die.
Shout out to our Ragnar Blackmane episode we did, where in the Ragnar Blackmane lore, there's just a guy sitting at a table and he just goes, "Ugh!" and he just dies because the gene seed isn't going to happen.
It doesn't take.
He literally just dies at the table, and he just slumps over, and they go like, they just shush him away.
Yeah. So, but with that, they're stable. They're ready to go. The Warborn are ready to go. They take place in the first major battle, the Great Crusade. That on Luna. So they were going from the start. They came out swinging, and as all the other legions do, the Emperor gave them a temporary commander while he's looking for his kids, and sent them forth. So yeah, they did fairly well. They had even before Gilman, they had quite the long string of victories. I was looking at that boss fight. I was ready for it to have a sliver of health and then go back into cocoon mode.
That was really annoying, that one. It was like, it had a distance modifier, so all your weapons were weak at a certain distance. Like, this is really annoying.
I hate that one so much. But there was a few quirks even this early on. It was noted like they quite like discipline. They quite like making a phalanx. The Ultramarines, and for the Roman stuff, you had the discipline Roman legions. They even before they were the Ultramarines, they were very much all about forming a plan, sticking to it. Everyone's doing their part. You're this part of the machine. I'm that part. Let's execute the battle plan. Even before we got Mr. Theoretical Practical, they were kind of already about that. A little bit less so. They were.
I had a fun theory / I believe this is true, which is the only reason you ever have formations like phalanxes and like they had like Storm Shield Wall in the Horus Heresy is because they actually had enough Astartes to form it, whereas in the 42nd millennium, when they're just chapters, that formation is no longer viable anymore.
Could be, yeah. Plus, they don't. It's a lot harder to make all that equipment come the 41st millennium.
And Gilliman was also a big fan of taking stuff from other legions he liked. Like you mentioned Korax.
Oh, yeah.
First time he saw a Moratat, where they have the dual wielding pistols. It was like, those guys are mental. I like them. Let's put them in my legion. Why not? Give it a bash.
Yeah. They were even early on pretty damn adaptable, right? There was one big hiccup known as the Osiris Rebellion or Osirian Rebellion, where some very powerful psychic Xenos with some pretty strangely described like clock ships caused the up to that point the single greatest loss of Space Marine life, and the Ultramarines had to briefly pull back before they could come back with a greater force. But aside from that, that was more of a some not even teething troubles. This was just a unexpected massive problem out of nowhere. This wasn't a flaw or anything. It's just so you win every battle. With that though, this did leave a bit of a mark of shame on them, as it were, because as you reading the Horus Heresy and other stuff, sometimes Gilliman has a hell of a temper.
I think a lot of them do, because they're like more, the Primarchs are more perpetual when they're, or petulant, sorry, when they're younger, because in some way they never Like they're human, but they don't grow out of it. Do you know what I mean? They're not old. Like they're not tempered by the wisdom such as the Emperor.
And there's like all their emotions are like dialed to 11. There's even in the new Ashes of the Imperium, it's like, yeah, they were never going to be great rulers outside of conflict because they're not built like that. Even if they're like very adept at like whatever they specialize in, there's just their kind of soul rages so fiery that they always have bouts of like intense emotion, and it's just part of their DNA.
What was the Emperor gonna do to them Primarchs after the Great Crusade?
He's gonna give them a vineyard.
I mean, we don't want to like, because that's more of an Emperor episode, but like technically they were supposed to be raised on Terra. Like even with that's the cool bit of lore. Like Guilliman technically had like a little, like beneath the Imperial Palace, there's like a little, it's not monument, but like they had like little temple areas. And there's a little one where like all the Primarchs had their own little private housing where they were going to be raised on Terra. And Guilliman probably had one filled with lots of scrolls and lots of interesting stuff. But it's like Guilliman was, they were all meant to be guided by the Emperor, but because they weren't, and obviously that led to all the troubles of the Horus Heresy. And although despite Guilliman, I would say grew up relatively similar to what the Emperor probably imagined for him, though. But
he had good parents.
Yeah, most of the Primarchs, not so much though. No, but I would say like, yeah, they pretty much, even as we get to where they are in like the Great Crusade era, like the Legion itself is, I think like a lot of them, without their Primarchs, they're really undisciplined in the sense of like their temperaments, because they're more willing, like even I think of the Blood Angels one, they're more willing to fall to like, I guess, bouts of like, not like rage, but they're willing to be more bloodthirsty, more like kind of what the Thunder Warriors were. I guess even to the Ultramarines, they needed like the temperament of their Primarch. And then, I mean, I don't know if you guys maybe agree though, but like the other ones especially as well, like maybe some of them accelerated their temperaments a lot more. But the 13th Legion were lucky enough to be like, they would acquire someone like Rabute Guilliman, who then grew up on Macragge.
So where were we?
We were, the Great Crusading around. They're doing their thing. Some losses here and there. A little bit of a psychological shame on that whole Osirian Cybird problem. Super powerful psychic Xenos kind of kicked them in the balls. But other than that, they're mostly good. And one day, Big E gets word that on the planet of the realm of Macragge, the planet of Macragge in the realm of Ultramar growing.
You got it. You got it in the end.
We figured it out. He hears word of the son of a man named Connor, who just seems to be just all around fucking phenomenal. This guy's kid is just taking names. He's doing good work. And because the Emperor's ego is apparently so high, he hears about how some dude's kid is doing well, and he's clearly like, well, this must be a Primarch, which, he's right. But also, cool your jets there, bud. Other people can do cool things.
I think he already heard like his furniture was enormous, and he's like, "Oh, that's it."
Maybe he just saw a picture of like the couch from Macragge. He's like, that's there's only one person that could have that.
Can I speak about my favorite Guilliman lore ever? He has a room which is all the furniture is Primarch sized. Which is amazing, because then like when if you see like normal humans go into it, they look like tiny little kids. Which I love that bit of lore. But yeah, Guilliman does have Primarch-sized furniture in his own personal holdings.
I mean, that's nice. I'd say that's pretty reasonable.
I think Korax is the one who's like surprised by it. He says like he doesn't ever have Primarchs. Like, he hits his head on doors. He's a raven or whatever. But like Guilliman actually has Primarch-sized rooms, which is enormous. So amazing lore. Amazing. Thank you, Games Workshop.
10 out of 10. Yeah, so they'd also what are the thing, like they much like the Romans would do, they what is it, whenever they conquered a world, they had no qualms about using like the inhabitants of that world to boost their numbers again. There was no like only Terrans, or only when they find the Primarch, only from the Primarch home, or like, nah, you want to join the Ultramarines? All right, sick. Here's some gene seed. Here's some power armor. Let's go. Another quite Roman thing of them. If you're willing to fight for the Empire, they'll have you. So, yeah, they had refused any glories and awards ever since that Osiris Rebellion thing, but they find Gilliman. Good news. Freak warp storm blows everyone off course for 5 years. Which I find so funny. It's like he's right there. We know where he is. He's right there. We just can't reach him. But it only lasts for 5 years, which isn't even that's not all too long to begin with. In 40K timescales, 5 years is a rounding error. Don't even worry about it. And eventually they find good old Gilliman, who this isn't, it's not his episode, but you kind of have to talk about their Primarch when you bring them Space Marines, especially a Legion. So Gilliman had landed on the planet of Macragge. It wasn't the best place in the world, but it was pretty good, especially compared to a lot of places in the Age of Strife. It had other worlds in its system it was able to keep in contact with. They actually had some, at least, it doesn't say it explicitly, but the way they're described is like little short burst jump like FTL ships they kind of have, which makes me think of like the Tau FTL, where it's just kind of skimming the warp, so it's still okay to use. It's very slow compared to other warp travel, but you can use it in a pinch in a warp storm. So Macragge was able to, its industry, its society, relatively intact, made it through all the Age of Strife, as did some of the worlds around it. No doubt helped with morale as well, knowing they weren't completely alone in the universe. So we landed on a pretty all right planet. Mostly ruled by the ruling government of Macragge, with the exception, of course, Hal, as those Illyrians in one of the northern regions of Ultramar.
Still a pesky problem.
This is where Gilliman lands. He's found and adopted by Connor Gilliman, and also raised by Gillamam Tarasha Uton. And he
was she as well? Like, because this is a detail I wasn't sure of. Is she actually Konor's wife, or was she almost like his, in the term of nobility, like a mistress or something? I don't remember if she's actually his wife.
It's like seneschal, like she's like kind of an underling, but the way I've always understood it, like they're not married, but they both like raise them as like, here's mom, here's dad.
And she's a bit younger than him, Konor.
Yeah,
but yeah.
But yes, we have the Primarch with the nuclear family. Good for him. Connor, and Tarasha, they both do all they can to impart the wisdom, how to be a good person, how to be good ruler, efficient, all this stuff. And Gilliman takes to it quite well, as most of the Primarchs do with whatever their homeworld's, shtick is. Gilliman, at one point, is sent off to go deal with those damn Illyrians, which he managed to do fairly peacefully. He brings things, it's a campaign, but he does bring them into compliance without unmaking them. Good for him. When he comes back home, Macragge's a little bit on fire. At this point, it was the Roman Republic, led by 2 consuls, and of course the Senate. Connor was one of the consuls. Another fella was oh god, and someone chime in. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Was it Galen? No, not Galen.
Oh, Galen, maybe.
Galen?
It might have been Galen.
Is it Galen?
It's the name is escaping me, but he's essentially the equal to what is he's.
Yeah, it's
like they used to have like 2 Caesars, didn't they?
They had 2 consuls, one for military, one for domestic. It's kind of that's what this is. The other one decided that Connor was trying to make Ultramar Macragge a lot more like meritocratic, like earn your place, don't just inherit noble titles and coast for the rest of time. He was trying to make things a lot more fair play. The other guy was not a fan of that, so we had him killed. And when Gilliman comes back, he makes it just in time to see his dad die in his arms.
Lovely.
Gilliman, though, he had been raised well, so he defers their fate, Connor and any traitorous allies, to the Senate. He is not going to be a tyrant. He's going to do this by the books, because otherwise the other option to him is anarchy. So he's going to do this effectively, efficiently, as it is by the books. And Connor, or the other guy, is still executed. The Senate still, chucks him off a cliff. And he goes to work putting his father's dream into place and makes Macragge just a little jewel of the Eastern galaxy. And even starts beginning more and more worlds are being annexed into it as the warp storms are passing a bit.
I had a question here, which is this where the 500 worlds in Macragge is established, or is this they are rebuilding to the level of the 500 worlds that were once unified before?
This is where they're establishing.
Yeah.
So they're getting up to that 500 worlds. Gilliman's on his way to doing it once the Emperor shows up, which sure enough, Big E shows up. Gilliman, it's a nice, short, little pleasant affair, and he joins the Imperium, takes command of the Warborn. Renames them to the Ultramarines, of course. And Ultramar is established. We get to that 500 worlds, and it's time to Great Crusade some more. And it should be noted that I imagine a big part of the reason why the Ultramarines become the largest Space Marine chapter, most generally well-equipped, even when they take heavy losses, is because Gilliman can throw 500 planets worth of industry behind their back.
There's a cool detail I like, which I don't, again, like maybe not everyone knows, which is because Gilliman had like actual parents, he doesn't really consider the Emperor like his father. Yeah, like he's not, he's one of those, he may have been your, father, but I'm your dad kind of thing. Like Connor was all, Connor or Connor, I can't remember the pronunciation.
I'd say Cotter, but it's 40K.
Connor.
And then Connor said, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." Like, hey.
He considers like Connor his actual father, and even when like he wants to like reflect on things, he has like a little bust, in marble of Connor's face, and he often speaks to it as seeking. He doesn't think of the Emperor as like, oh, what lessons do I learn from you? The Emperor is his commander, his Emperor, actual Emperor, not just like dad. Even it's complicated to get him, but he's lucky enough to be praised by actual people, so he's a bit more normal. Good
for him. And with this, the Ultramarines are let loose once more. Well, as the Ultramarines, they're now let loose for the first time. They had another Roman thing, right? The Romans, in some ways, legions were soldiers second, engineers first. The roads followed them wherever they lay. Various, towns and stuff would crop up. Plenty of towns, London, one of them starts as a Roman fort, turns into a city. Sure enough, wherever the Ultramarines go, they make sure to leave the world in, at least theoretically, a better place than they found it, even if they had to tear it down. And again, they're able to do this at speed while still bringing more worlds into compliance than anyone else, because they're using, like, they're being smart.
Their brains.
Their brains. Like, they're being smart with it. We have an entire realm of industry to pump into this world. We are going to give you one hell of a stimulus check, and then all the taxes will be paid nice and on time. You can join the Imperium. It'll be good for you. And then they move on to the next one. Which, and because, again, they're good administrators, they don't need to leave the Space Marines in charge, like mentioning some word bearers who sit on the planet for forever and, preach. The Ultramarines are like, hey, this...
Cover it.
The Ultramarines are like, hey, you were in charge of the world before. You seem to have done a good job. Here's how we want you to do things. Have at it. Or alternatively...
Whereas the Night Lords are like, oh, I made a meat puppet. Lol.
Yeah, thanks. That doesn't help me rule in a government. Thanks, I guess. The Ultramarines do that across the galaxy. And like I said, they had the greatest number of compliances than any other legion through both diplomacy and warfare. They could do the carrot and the stick equally well. No doubt helping this, Gilliman, as y'all have said, more than happy to take ideas from other legions, and the Ultramarines are more than happy to incorporate them. Maybe they're not going to be as good as Stealth at the Raven Guard, right? That's their whole thing. But, the Ultramarines aren't going to go, stupid, that's dishonest, that's dumb, that's lame. They're going to go, okay, we will try and adapt that as need be. We're not going to specialize in it, but it's another tool in our arsenal. that they don't make their tactics their personality, basically, like a whole lot of the other legions do.
I think that's more because like the Ultramarines, like each weapon, each tactic is a tool to achieve victory, rather than this is, like the Space Wars. We all go in and fight headstrong because we're trying to create a great story, create our saga.
Yeah.
The Ultramarines are like the victory is more important, than the actual way we, they're not willing to like hurt civilians necessarily, but they're very much like, it's impractical. As theoretical and practical is often it is their catchphrase.
Is their little shtick. Yeah, that's what it is. They're being reasonable with conquering the galaxy. They will do whatever they need to at the moment. Does that call for stealth? Does that call for the big old phalanx shield wall? Diplomacy? Either way, we're doing it. That jump to midair also looked incredibly cool.
Yeah, amazing gameplay.
Yeah, the grapple. Yeah. Hell yeah. So Guilliman, they take revenge on those Assyrian birds. One of those. I thank you, dyslexia. I'm not.
You got
dyslexic.
it. You got it. You're fine, man. You got it.
I'm just dumb.
That's right. Thanks.
They bring themselves back to being on top again. They'll receive their honors again. The shame has been erased. They're doing great. There's some flaws. It's not perfectly squeaky clean. Nuceria was a world they had some influence over. They did not make Nuceria a nice planet. They made the taxes efficient. They didn't really make it not shit.
Spread too thin, I think, in the end, weren't they?
That could be. Well, if you'd like my cope, or as I say, just the truth. They only had so much time. Big E's pushing them, even with all the Ultramar, the realm behind them, the 500 worlds. Big E always needs more. So perhaps some worlds did not have the time to get the attention they needed. Hello, Athena. But overall, they're doing good work across the galaxy. Taxes are running on time. Everything, all that stuff's doing well. They also get themselves a little dog. But they also get themselves a little bit of a boost from the legions which shall not be named, as them, and I believe the Imperial Fists very likely had some of the legionnaires left over from whatever happened with that, just taken into their legion. No sense throwing the baby out with the bathwater and all that, right? So the Ultramarines get a boost from that, and come the Rangdan Xenocides, they don't participate, but the Dark Angels do. And when the Dark Angels get whomped, now the Ultramarines are the largest legion by quite a bit. So things are coming up Ultramarine. They do spend a lot of time, by the way, practicing simulating fights, even this early on. Shout out to the planet of Prondium, which was a nice garden world until the Ultramarines decided to host war games on it. Then it was kind of a dump after they played war games on it. But they repaired it. They're spending even their off time making sure they're the best soldiers. Like you said, Hal, it's about winning the war. You got to practice to make sure, be ready for any situation. And Guilliman performs his duties without much question. He might have some private doubts every now and again, but he's doing what he feels he has to, or at least needs to. And
I'm guessing this is when it's all about to go downhill.
It might be all about to go very downhill here, but we've got we right before it begins going downhill, right at the peak, that damn Lorgar, he's being way too damn slow. Really got to stop calling me a god. The Lorgar, he's
I
not
love that
making.
guy.
Well, I'm not saying he's wrong, but you got to stop saying the quiet part out loud, Lorgar. This is not the time for such ideology. So after 100 odd years of the Emperor saying stop that, stop that, stop that, he's now done saying stop that. So he calls on Malkador, Guilliman, and the Ultramarines to burn Monarchia to the ground. Lorgar's greatest little city. Which they do. I will give the Ultramarines some credit. They do evacuate the city for anyone willing to leave. So.
Generational fumble.
Can I point out a slight bit of like what people might not think is probably very consistent with our Ultramarine boys? Because in that book, First Heretic, when they evacuate the city because the Emperor is like, oh, it's basically it's a cathedral city to my worship. I hate it. Some people do throw a couple of things at the Ultramarines, and a few of them just start blasting. So there's a few casualties among. So the rest of we said like they're the good boys so far. Like they are Space Marines. Don't test
the good boys of the Imperium.
Yeah.
Gilliman does this again without hesitation. He follows the Emperor's orders, but with some other officers in his legion, he kind of privately confides in them, like, I don't think that was the right thing to do. I do not feel good about this entire affair. Which, boy, is that prophetic.
Yeah.
So, the Horus Heresy begins. Gilliman, for, the early on, he's not too involved. He's not even too aware of it. He's busy still Great Crusading around a little bit, making sure the Empire is going well. He's the greatest Paradox game player of all time. He has Stellaris, but in real life to be worrying about. And one day, he's finally like, I should really do something about that whole Monarchia thing. I feel bad. Let's start with a small little sign of trust. He invites Lorgar to go on a campaign where they'll kill some orcs together, right? What better brotherly bonding for a Primarch is there than murdering some orcs, right? Come on now, that's just class. Lorgar is Lorgar. They are well in the chaos Kool-Aid by this point. And Gilliman, in his sign of trust, trying to be a cool dude, perfectly sets things up so the word bearers are so intermingled with the Ultramarines. This is going to be the ultimate brotherly, let's all feel good again. We can try working together. And then Calth, Lorgar, and the word bearers just start firing into the Ultramarines.
As the amazing comment someone said before on a previous episode, Calth was an act of self-defense.
That's right, it was.
Yeah.
Amazing comment. I had a thing for the chat and everyone listening. Could you please type in your best theoretical and practical whilst we're listening to this episode, or even in the comment section? Because I would just love it if people were being like, theoretical, give him the old dick twist.
Theoretical, Calth was an act of self-defense. Practical, no the fuck it wasn't.
throws we should point out, throws an entire ship at the unsuspecting dockyards of Calth, immediately bursting thousands of Ultramarines into flames.
Yeah, and then on top of that, there was then the lower key violence of an entire legion of Space Marines out of nowhere opening fire on another one. Calth was a little rough for the Ultramarines.
Theoretical, Lorgar has betrayed me. Practical, my sons be dead. Oof. So, yeah.
Follow-up practical. I'm going to punch his skull off.
Yes.
And by God, did he give it a good attempt. The Ultramarines and good old Aenid Thiel, as mentioned earlier, they're very much caught off guard, but Aenid Thiel, funny enough, this was what his whole thing was about. You never know. What if we got to fight someone an awful lot like Space Marines? Well, what are they doing right now? So they rally as quick as they can. They do give back, for the situation, the Ultramarines punch back pretty hard. And with how the legions were spread out at first, they did lose a third of their Marines. I think it was 100,000 just dead Smurfs. Yeah. That's brutal. Let's not pretend that
it could have been worse. In the Battle of the Abyss, they were going to use the Abyss to destroy Macragge simultaneously, but luckily that got stopped. Like that would have been
got stopped. Unfortunately, that book wasn't stopped. But
shout out to Irrational Sense, who says theoretical Calth was an act of self-defense. Practical, oh my god, he's punching my head off in space.
Yeah. Turns out, if you're angry enough, you don't need a helmet in space.
Theoretical, Eli loves his wife. Practical, Eli hates his wife. What is his comments?
I love my wife.
Insane.
Man loves his wife. Husband loves his wife. Crazy headline.
Insane. But I would say, all things considered, given the circumstances, only a third of the Ultramarines dying is quite impressive, as opposed to everyone.
Shadow Crusade.
Indeed.
Yes.
So what would follow for some amount of time was two things for the Ultramarines. the Ruin Storm, that's towards the end. Right? Shadow Crusade first, yeah. The Shadow Crusade, which was Gilliman, Tom, and Jerry chasing around the Word Bearers and World Eaters across Ultramar, while Angron and Lorgar are razing it to the ground. Their job is not to destroy Ultramar. That'd be great if they could, but that's not the job. The job is to tie up Gilliman and do not let the Ultramarines anywhere near Terra.
And isolate the resources of Ultramar particularly as well.
It's like this is an empire within an empire. We do not need this mini realm joining the heresy. Keep it busy, which on that front, Lorgar and Angron do it astonishingly successfully. They keep Gilliman quite occupied. It ends with the Ruin Storm. Angron ascends to become a demon prince. Gilliman tries to 1v2 Angron and Lorgar, and it goes about as well as that sentence implies.
He does whoop Lorgar, but then Angron comes.
He does whoop Lorgar.
Like, oh no, it's the crazy guy.
Yeah. He has a habit of doing that. For the brilliant tactician he's supposed to be, whenever there's a big threat, his solution seems to be to throw hands, which you can't fault him for leading from the back.
And to be fair as well, he's the one who's fought the most Primarchs, the only one he didn't.
I was going to say that's a cool detail, yeah.
Yes.
But as the Lion says in his own Primarch novel, there's only one reason why Gilliman's not the best duelist of all the Primarchs, is because Gilliman is the master of all, and yet, he's the greatest at everything, and he's not the master of one thing. And the Lion speaks about, if Gilliman had dedicated the time, he could be as good as the Lion in dueling and, close combat fighting. But because he's so good at everything else, he doesn't focus on one thing.
That's not him and his Legion's thing. They're like, we could be the best duelists ever, but then other things will suffer for it.
I could be a Grandmaster at Tekken, but I like playing Age of Empires. Damn it, I will do my RTSs.
Indeed.
I think the analogy I think of, he could be a kitchen knife, but he's a Swiss Army knife. It's not the best kitchen knife.
It's a good kitchen knife, though.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all good.
All right, settle down. I think it's the best kitchen knife.
All right,
keep it
in your pants.
Nope,
pancreas.
It's coming out.
He's getting his cock out.
Pulling his cock out. So it's rough for the Ultramarines in Ultramar. I mean, I think they burned down 100 worlds, which, if my math is correct, that's a fifth of Ultramar just raised. Right?
Big.
It's gonna put a dent in the GDP. Culminates in the Ruin Storm being created. Ultramar being cut off from the rest of the galaxy. The Blood Angels and Dark Angels are here now. That's something. That's something good. Some not good. Conrad Kurz is here too, and that Illyria region never quite fully bought in. So part of the reason he was able to hide is he was probably doing the Batman thing, right, where you turn around, Conrad Kurz is gone. Probably took a bit of your skin with him on the way out, and he didn't notice. He was also being sheltered, though, by some of the Illyrians. He was like, hey, you don't like Ultramar. I'm not a fan. You want to do something? So he was starting rebellions and whatnot the whole time. They were hiding him, which worked fairly well until the Lion decided that Illyria would be target practice in order to burn Conrad Kurz out, which Gilliman wasn't happy with, and the Ultramarines probably weren't happy with either. But Lion's gonna lion. This all eventually culminates in both the Imperium Secundus, where Gilliman decides, I have no idea if there is an Imperium out there. I'm going to act as if there isn't and try and become a little realm of stability, where once again the glazing will not stop. Horus himself said, I don't know if we tried to bulldoze through all those worlds, I don't know if we could do it if we gave Gilliman time to prepare. So Gilliman is acting on the, I will say, given the circumstances, reasonable assumption, I can't get out. I don't know if there's anything to get out to. I'm going to do what I can here. You get words, through some sanguineous psychic stuff and just other ways that there is an Imperium out there. Because after all, if Sanguinius is still fated to die on Terra, well, that means there's still a Terra.
And it's Kurz, isn't it? Kurz says, I think the Lion
he's like, an assassin was sent by the Imperium to kill me. And he's like, wait, There's still an Imperium. If there's an assassin, there's an Imperium. Good. Good.
The Imperium, the
lion
Imperium has
wears
to be
that.
around to send assassins. So, and again, Gilliman, with knowing this, he's like, all right, no more Imperium Secundus. Ultramarines, my sons, we're going to bash our heads against the fleets that Lorgar and Angron are surrounding us with, as are the Dark Angels, while the Blood Angels rush to Terra. They have that sad moment where Sanguinius asks, so when will I see you two again? Never.
Rip.
And
Rip.
The Ultramarines spend a good amount of time trying to then break out of the blockade themselves, which they eventually do, which is part of why the duel happens, as Horus finally receives news that the Smurfs are coming. Gilliman is bearing down on Terra alongside the Dangels. It's not going to be good when that happens.
We should point out as well, like this, the reason what makes the Ultramarines so dangerous and why Horus earlier stated like he didn't know if he could take on Gilliman's Ultramar is because the Ultramarines, like, despite their massive legion, they're also willing to utilize like regular human like army and regiments, other things. So when Gilliman has an armada coming to basically hammer an anvil on Horus in the Siege of Terra, it's not just the Ultramarines, it's the Ultramarines plus like twice that number in
military.
Yeah, like Ultramar's military, Shattered Legion elements, you know, like all survive. Like when it's like Gilliman, basically, I think it says that he comes to the equivalent of what is like almost like a mini Great Crusade fleet.
Yeah, much like
Terra.
Kind of like Roman auxiliaries kind of deal. He's not just bringing the Legion; he's bringing everything the Legion can grab together.
Oh yeah, like
it is going to be a fully functioning war machine, and he's quite pissed. So
Space Marines are incredibly deadly, but you have to remember, like, you know, a melter gun to the face is still a melter gun to the face.
I mean,
so
just looking at pure stats, and Oberyn is stronger than a Space Marine by a fair margin.
Yeah, the Space Marines are elite, and the Ultramarines have numbers. So
even with a third of them dying, they're still the largest by far.
Kind of crazy that they lost the Siege of Terra. I'm still not buying it. Buying it.
What, the traitors?
Yeah. Too busy gooning, I guess. Too busy gooning.
That's more of a that's more because the Emperor defeats Horus, not like, and even because they said like this is getting on in its own episode, to be fair, but as in, it's more of like there are so many minute factors, like minute decisions that lead to the like the loyalists just squeaking out a Pyrrhic victory. Yeah. It's so close.
That, and half the traitor legions were full on insane by this point. So it's like, world leaders, can you help? Oh, you're blending. You're 3 miles away.
Horus in his delusional state is like, I wish I had other Primarchs. These ones are useless. They won't do anything I tell them. Oh, they're bloody. They're squabbling. They're squabbling. Right there. Right there.
Except for Perturabo, he then abused.
And then Perturabo left because he's like, I'm not happy here.
It's like, this entire thing sucks. I'm going home. Like that Zangor was going home.
I think I got rocketed.
So we now, he doesn't partake in the Siege of Terra. He does get there. It's time for politicking with Primarchs. And this culminates in the Ultramarines, Gilliman, writing the Codex Astartes, where he makes it apply to his own chapter, or Legion. He's not a total hypocrite with this. Total hypocrite. I don't want there should never be a Horus heresy ever again. Yes, it's nice to have a Legion beat stick, but now the Traitor Marines are driven off. We now own most of the galaxy. We not only don't really need them as Legion forces anymore, but if there's another Horus scenario, someone else goes bad, I don't want them throwing another Legion at the Imperium. So, in addition to being the big tactical book and strategic book of everything Gilliman could ever think of at the time, which was quite a few things, he demands that the legions split up. Not everyone agrees with this, but he either convinces enough of them that they're kind of just outvoted, with some exceptions, although the exceptions, like the Salamanders, didn't really need to do much splitting into chapters because there weren't many of them left.
There's some brand new kind of, what is like, I guess at the time of recording, cutting edge lore in the scouring stuff, which it kind of hints the fact that, I guess, everyone won't necessarily know this if you wanted to learn new stuff, which is Gilliman is kind of seeing himself as the leader of the Imperium in pseudo place of the Emperor, at least the way me and Andy interpret it. And he doesn't trust his brothers to the extent when it even comes to the Emperor's condition and like the survival of the Emperor, he actually doesn't necessarily trust the other loyalist Primarchs to make the quote unquote right choice. So Gilliman, being a character who will he'll author the Codex Astartes and other things, and essentially take command of the Imperium. The other loyalist Primarchs notice this, and they basically say, like, it's going to turn everyone into Ultramarines essentially, or Ultramarines are going to turn Terra into what they're basically Macragge 2.0 in some sense. So, I mean, I think, to be fair, it's probably true.
If I may be so bold, I think things would be a bit better if he turned everything into Macragge 2.0. Macragge is quite a nice place.
But it's in the same way, like, it's the same problem. It's like, which is, what if Horus, Horus got corrupted because he was the War Master? What if the Chaos Ever target, regained strength and targeted Gilliman because he's someone who wields so much power? But what me and Andy, because we did a Lodgecast episode on the Scouring book, and we can see from that, like, the normal civilian, like, so much more is being handed away from Primarch control, and as now is mostly in the hands of what essentially are Imperial citizens, High Lords of Terra, and Gilliman. He's the one in charge, baby.
Yeah. Although I will say this, and this is part favoritism, but it is also the history thing again. I find it very likely this is a reference to the Roman dictatorships, where in times of crisis, they would someone would become a dictator. Which, yes, it is a dictator, but it was an official kind of deal. Yeah, like it's not just how we say it, where a dictator takes power. It's like it's a position where cut the red tape. You can have basically unlimited power, and then when the crisis is over, you're no longer the dictator. You go home. Which, to be fair, more often than not, that's kind of just how it went.
I think it was in Roman history that most dictators, like pretty much all of them, gave up their power when they did. Supposed to, apart from Caesar, I guess.
Yeah, they all did. He was the one who didn't, and we made an empire. Yeah. But no, I find it fairly likely it is a reference to that.
Cool.
So not necessarily, even if say that's all objectively true, decent odds Gilliman could have, at the end of the day, whenever he's like, okay, we can breathe, I'm going home now, goodbye everyone. And there is a line, I don't remember what it was in, but he's like, I wish I could just be a farmer. So I find it likely Gilliman probably would have just gone home when he felt he could. But with that now, the Ultramarines are just one chapter out of many. Of course, Ultramar also is shrunken in size. After all, one chapter does not need 500 worlds. They are, a lot of them are taken over by Ultramarine successor chapters, which at this point were Ultramarines. But Ultramar itself shrinks, if only, on official documents and whatnot. The Legion is vastly reduced in size, though they will still work with each other, as all successor chapters no doubt do with their progenitor. And the Ultramarines set themselves up as the shining light in the dark of the Eastern Imperium. Because Segmentum Pacificus, Ultima Segmentum, you will notice, is like 70% of the galaxy.
It's like it's pretty much like it's like the powerhouse of the Imperium, isn't it? Even for the modern day.
Macragge is one of only 3 worlds, the other being Terra and Mars, that is allowed to have its own like rule over them. No other planet but those 2 can do that, and Macragge.
It's a bloody shame it's so far away from Terra. Like, that would have been useful if it was a little bit closer.
Would have been useful, but Constantinople wasn't next to Rome.
True. Yes, that may be another reference as well, then, isn't it?
Well, I'm sure the Imperium Secundus absolutely was just the Byzantine Empire. Although then again, now we get the Imperium Nihilus and Sanctus, which is also the Byzantine and Western Roman Empire.
It seems like Games Workshop keep copying history, guys. It's crazy. Crazy theory there.
Gilliman would not be around for too much longer until he, wakes up from his nap, because he did that thing again. I'm gonna go fight Fulgrim. I'm gonna go beat him up, and then he gets his neck sliced open, poisoned, put to the stasis.
Easy dub.
And this, the Ultramarines would not be the best off for this. It could be far worse. It should be noted, though, that when Gilliman wrote the Codex Astartes, the only point he said you have to follow is split yourselves up into chapters. Everything else, this is just a big book of tactics and strategy and how I think it's best to do things. You don't have to. You shouldn't do it if it doesn't make sense for the situation. Here's my notes. Well, Macragge does avoid most of the decline, at least compared to everyone else that the Imperium faces. It is a very stable realm, nice place. The Ultramarines have followed Guilliman's teachings as well as they could without his presence. They keep everything running. If nothing else, they did remember that a functioning government and civilization that isn't a wild, anarchic hellhole is a good thing to have, so they keep Macragge going. It is a jewel of the Imperium. Ultramar, even without 500 worlds, is still probably the strongest single subsect of the Imperium, right? Unless you're kind of cheating and saying, well, the entirety of the Adeptus Mechanicus could beat Ultramar. Yeah, okay, well, that's the I don't know if that really counts. As a little political entity, Ultramar is still the best place to be. That being said, not immune to things going, being worse than they were before. The Ultramarines in particular, they get a little... The Codex goes from, their dad's guidebook to their dad's really cool guidebook, and he's not around anymore.
Bible.
Yeah, it goes to the Bible. The Codex is right. If you are not Codex compliant in all ways, we're going to hit you with a brick.
It's interesting, though, isn't it? Because I don't think the Ultramarines, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't see the Emperor as a god, though, even when the ecclesiarchy eventually spreads across the Imperium over the millennia. They think he's just the Emperor, the master of mankind, not Emperor, he's going to make me ascend to the holy place sort of thing.
Most chapters are like that. There's only a few, like the Black Templars and some other ones, who are zealous, religious. They're the exception.
But all chaplains do, right? I don't remember it's very ambiguous in Space Marine books most of the time.
They're strange.
They're talking about heresy and stuff like this as if there is a divine right.
Well,
I think they watched heresy, don't they?
They even talk about heresy before when the Imperial truth was.
They're kind of like combinations of the old iterators of the Remembrancer Order and Commissars, but for Space Marines. Some of them are extremely religious, and they are oathed to the. I mean, even the ecclesiarchy gives them their Rosariuses, and so maybe a chaplain can also be oh, I am religious, but also doesn't mean I'm going to push it on my brothers. Yeah,
it's also even when Big E was around, we have the Imperial Truth. He still called his big war the Great Crusade. There are connotations with that.
Even then, chapters lead Astartes in sermons. So it again, I don't know what the correct interpretation of it is, but it seems somewhat.
It's spiritual, but it might not necessarily be a religion kind of practice.
Well, the Emperor is though some of them pray in the sense of again to the Emperor in general.
It's very advanced. It's a kind of meditation more than anything is how I try and view it. But I also
they're warrior monks.
Yeah, but monk implies.
That's another thing.
That's the thing. Usually in most books, the Space Marines do seem quite religious. But then, every once in a while, there's a little codex reminder. Oh, they don't actually believe in the Emperor. But in most of the books, they do. So it's very weird.
It's again, why did the Emperor want to be atheist, and then he put cathedrals on top of his ships? And it's dog, you are not giving the correct impression. You put jet engines on Notre Dame. All right, people are going to be religious.
We should also say as well, at this point when we're creeping through the millennia, the 500 worlds of Ultramar was established. The sphere of influence shrinks, and to the point where I don't know what the size of Ultramar is in the 42nd or what was the 41st millennium before Guilliman again, but it was definitely not 500 worlds.
I feel like I've read a couple different things. I'd have to. The numbers I've gotten have been anything from 8 to 50. So one of those is definitely way smaller, but it's still even within that, Ultramar is still
as a bastion.
It's still a bastion of what was what once was and whatnot. Decent living conditions, all that nice stuff. It should be and I
let him cook.
What I'm trying to cook is what do I pick to start with? I'm what's a nice starting point for what are some of the things the Ultramarines were doing, right? what weren't they doing?
Yeah.
They have so many goddamn books.
Should we start with
Battle McQuaig?
do you want to start with one of the more like the part where like most of us follow on from, which is the Tyrannic War? Maybe that's a good place to start.
Yeah, because that's kind of emblematic of how they had changed over the time. So like I said, they'd started following the Codex as a Bible. Ultramar has definitely shrunken, and
Marnius Calgar is chapter master at this point as well.
Yeah, and it should be noted that as much as they shouldn't have been following it like a Bible, Gilman was very smart. He was very thorough. You can find answers to a lot of situations, even 10,000 years down the line in the Codex. So, and even if it's not the perfect solution, if a Space Marine is running you down with not the best solution, you're probably still going to die. Even he could be doing it, 10% more efficiently. That only matters so much. Oh, well, goodbye.
Guys, you raised me up. It's like he's on a mountains. That guy has floated.
Very well to me.
So they're still doing good work.
So what's the clip of the guy like, oh my God, it's Jesus or something?
Wait, Jesus. No, Jesus.
It just reminds me of Simpsons, where it's just like, I must go now. My planet needs me. Poochie's dead.
God, on the way to his home planet. But yeah, so they're still doing all right. Oh, there's paint on my feet. Anyway.
Wow. Hell of a transition there.
I hope they painted the rest of that house the same color of green as your office.
It is not going to be green, but I'm also not changing the green room.
Wow.
But
remember, Chad,
Colin, please.
You have Colin has a free green screen that you can color key any images you want on that wall.
I can't stop you. But Ultramar is doing good. Gil Ultramarines are doing good. There's some echoing off in the corners of the galaxy, even farther out than Ultramar is. Some planets seem to just be losing contact, vanishing. And eventually, from the Ultramarines' perspective, an Inquisitor comes along, a man named Cryptman, and informs them that the end times have come because bugs from beyond the stars are here to eat everyone. Sure enough, the Tyranids have arrived, and they don't seem like they're going away anytime soon. Hive Fleet Behemoth crashes into the galaxy, crashes into Ultramar, which there's also a little bit of directing them towards Ultramar, because with how big Ultima Segmentum is, if they make it past Ultramar, there's for like tens of thousands of light years, it's going to be very hard to form another like solid defensive point, right? Mm-hmm. So they wrangle them towards Ultramar, and the entire chapter marches forth on the planet of Prondium. And viewer, I don't know if you might know this, but it is my understanding that Prondium in Latin translates to lunch. I wonder how this planet's going to fare. Sure enough, the Ultramarines crack open the big old codex, figure out what to do, implement some strategies, and it is a horrific loss. Squads of Ultramarines are surrounded and devoured. Even Marnius Calgar, he's there himself. He doesn't come away from it great. He's going to come away from it worse pretty soon. But it is decisive Ultramarine L. They are the planet, and then itself. There's nothing left of the planet. It was once again a lush garden world. Fun little fact. It was also invaded by the forces of the Beast for a bit, but then that was repulsed. Now it's a marble. There's nothing left but gravel. Even the atmosphere is gone. So the Ultramarines, Marnius Calgar takes he basically locks himself away for a bit, has a good hard think, and goes, we have to get over this whole codex thing. It's a great book. I like the book. We can't keep following it like it's the Bible.
Do you think he almost like he's when he says we have to adapt?
Yeah,
he almost heaves when he says it.
Like we have to get rid of it. We can't follow it. Yeah, it was probably gagging, but sure enough, they do, and so they take lessons they've learned. They change strategies up. Hive Fleet Behemoth comes to nothing short of Macrogge itself, and Apocalypse Now. I mean, Tyranids are raining from the skies. Macrogge has orbital defenses, by the way. It's not, it's no Cadia, but it's got some pretty robust defenses. The Ultramarines still have quite the fleet. They had quite the fleet. They had some orbital defenses as the Tyranids bowl through them. The battle on the ground commences. Entire regions of Ultramar subsumed. There was the place, where Marneus Calgar fought, Cold Steel Ridge. Macragge, it's a it's like an industrial sector, right? It's makes a lot of arms for the Ultramarines, for all the Auxilia. It used to do that before the Tyranids just kind of meat-tided all over the entire thing. This was, again, where one of the greatest individual losses in Ultramarines history was, because Marneus Calgar tried to combat the Swarmlord in 1v1, got most of his limbs ripped off for the trouble, and the only reason he made it out was because his honor guard essentially kept feeding themselves to the Swarmlord until they could pull him out.
R.I.P.
Sure enough, too, in the polar fortresses, I believe the northern one it was, the Ultramarines had a first company. By the time the fighting was over, they didn't have a first company, and all of the Terminator armor that entails.
There's a cool diorama out there of that.
There is. Oh, it looks so cool. Nevertheless, they are able to just barely squeak through. And it should be noted, it's not even just the Ultramarines at this point. They kind of do like semi-legion, because they called in some successor chapters. They called in kind of like, you said, Hal, a mini Great Crusade fleet. They called up the Auxilia. They called up everything they could. There were Titan legions prowling Macragge, because this was all of a high fleet versus everything they could muster here. And because of that, they were just barely able to squeak out a win.
What's the because I think they said like it's the part which they most value on Macragge / it's usually a bad sign if any enemy gets close to this, it's like usually game over. But is it the Gates of Ptolemy or the Library of Ptolemy?
I think it's the library.
Because this is like a part, like a small detail, which is again like a cool thing for people who don't know Ultramarine stuff. Is like they have this area on Macragge that's often, I think the Tyranids get close to it, don't they? In this tyrannic war,
they get very close to like even the fortress monastery of Hera, which is their.
Yeah, I believe it is in the Library of Ptolemy where Gilliman's corpse is in stasis.
Yeah, that's where he's. That's where it's the Shrine of Gilliman where he was taking a nap, which had been used as a pilgrimage
20
site.
20 kilometers from Gilliman. You just needed 20 more kilometers, John Swarmlord.
Yeah, but like there's a cool detail. I think Dante once went to Macragge and he speaks about like you could see through the stasis capsule. They keep him like frozen in time at the point of his death. Like you see like flecks of dried blood like in the wound across. I mean, like people would say like 10,000 years. I'm like, oh yeah, Primarch's like a myth. You can go see one on Macragge.
Yeah,
at this time, which is incredible. Like you could literally.
It was. Oh, sorry.
I was like, every chapter master ever at one point was like, it's the only chapter in like, or any successors with them as well, who would actually go and see that their Primarch was a living being and not mythology.
Not made up.
Calgar, I think.
Tyranids eating a Primarch and then making a special Tyranid for the Primarch would be cool.
Game over.
Well, I mean, even those big tanky Tyranids with like the really bulbous design, and they're blind. They're based off Space Marines. Yeah, so they nommed on some Space Marines and went, "These guys are bulky. We can put that in." Yeah, go for it.
I say, following this assault on Macragge, and I guess is it the first Tyrannic War? Is this the
first Tyrannic War? And it was bad. Like they won the day, but they had to call on the Blood Angels to help them get rid of the remaining Tyranids after the space battle was won. The space battle only won because they set an Emperor class battleship to explode in the middle of the fleet.
It cost them resources that they'll never be able to get back.
No, you can't make more of those. That's gone. Where were we though? Tyrannic War aftermath. Not great. Definitely not great. Even like Macragge itself has now been invaded, and half of it is somewhere digesting in a Tyranid. So that's not ideal. It took them decades to replenish their losses, which I find particularly insane, because they have the Genesis chapter. They have an entire chapter that exists to one day be promoted to Ultramarine.
Well, even before that, I'm pretty sure it's also true to say that the size of the Emperor were like a secret company of the Ultramarines in its nascent day, and there's like, oh, we got like a kind of extra couple of hundred guys who are just going to be like an 11th company when we're just putting the codex in. Don't worry. We'll make them into a proper chapter. Then we don't have to like acknowledge that don't worry about it. They're the size of the Emperor.
Even with two backups, like it took them over half a century to like properly rebuild. Blood Angels had to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the aftermath. It was bad, but they did learn their lesson. They broke Codex compliance, created the Tyrannic War Veterans, a little special unit. You can't buy those anymore. They don't exist anymore. Rest in peace. But they did move on. They did try and they're like, we have to adapt again. We've lost sight of our ways as being, like the space Romans, where maybe you'll get us the first time, but we'll adapt to the second. No, we have to do that again. We can't just go, book says this, do this. Gilliman did not encounter the Tyranids. He didn't really have a solution for endless tide of bugs. So a little rough, but they're coming back on top. And I did gloss over it a bit, but I'm glad you did bring it up. They could, like you said, they had proof that their Gene Father wasn't just a myth. They could see him and pray around Gilman any time they want. And that was even like one of the biggest tourist destinations, essentially, in all of the Imperium, second only to the people trying to see the Emperor at Eternity Gate and all that.
Security must be crazy.
Oh, I mean, it's in their fortress monastery. There's no way that you were going through all of the background checks to go see the Primarch. But rebuilding begins. They are the Ultramarines, the greatest of them all, and they're able to come back on top for a bit. Sure enough, there is also the second Tyrannic War with round 2 against Hive Fleet Kraken, but this one does overall, I would say, it goes a bit better. Also, no doubt, helped both. They have those Tyrannic War veterans. They have experience with fighting the Tyranids. In much the same way, the first time Rome tried to build a navy, it didn't go so good. No. Carthage said no. I guess the second time, it all sank from a storm. But that third time, they had it. They had Carthage's number.
I'm pretty sure the second war, it's like Marnius Calgar comes in at the clutch moment right at the end with his Ultramarines. He's like, sees the Swarm Lord, and he's like, rematch, bitch, and he wins.
Yeah,
he's learned his lesson.
He does, because he's Marnius Calgar. He's on top of this again.
And he is mostly robot.
And also, also no doubt helping was that off to the sideline, another half of Hive Fleet Kraken was devouring Iandon. So, that they had some unwitting unknown about help in the second Tyrannic War. And we coming to the modern day of the setting. This is, again, why I was saying I was struggling. At the end of the 41st millennium, Cato Sicarius is on 5 different planets at the same time.
Yeah, a lot happens in the general sense. The chapters everywhere in 999 M41.
Yeah, which a lot of people were too. But Cato Sicarius is stunting on the Catan. The Nightbringer just beating him up.
Ventress as well. I think Ventress as well did some.
Uriel Ventress does that too. Uriel Ventress also is fighting Hansu and the Iron Warriors, who also invade the Prague.
He goes into the
raining all over the galaxy.
It is all of these could be their own thing because they all have quite extensive books about them.
There's a cool fact that the Ultramarines don't just recruit from most of the Space Marine chapters are either they are in their ships. They're the one homeworld, whereas the Ultramarines recruit from all over Macragge. So there are people who come from the long ruined world of Calth. There are people who like Calgar, who comes from the Agri world. I can't remember the name of his home planet.
Yeah, he comes from an Agri world. I don't remember which one, but
he's not from Macragge natively.
No.
I think Ventress is not even from.
I think Ventress is from Calth.
I think Ventress is from Calth as well.
Yeah, and Cato is from a ocean. The Void Tridents is where he's from. Where that the Void Tridents chapter is also is it Talasar? He's from.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So they even with that, they did still keep some of their old the good parts of their old Legion practices. Where again, they're hey, you're not from Macragge. Who cares? Are you good? Are you good at what you do? Join the Ultramarines.
And they have a long lineage of heroes now. With Ventress was allowed to be recruited into the Ultramarines because he had an ancestor who was another Ventress who was a hero of the chapter. So they do respect lineage in some sense.
Older ancestor as well, not ancestor, but predecessor as well that he meets up with, and you're like, oh wow, they're all connected. It all connects.
One big happy family. Before we move on to the the return. Some stuff for the daily life, right? They For Space Marines, they're not too aloof for their normal populace, right? Like again, they have normal people can make a pilgrimage to see Gilliman's stasis body. So they interact with the common man every now and again. They do march, and they don't march. They do they do venture out into the streets of Macragge. There's if you go to a nice restaurant at Macragge, there's a non-zero chance if you look over at the guy at the table next to you, there's one of the Emperor's angels enjoying himself a nice olive oil and wine lunch.
Rub.
Yeah. Or some nice Roman food. They like I said, very efficient. They're the Master of None, which on tabletop has been very fun to see the history of that, because sometimes the only reason to take the Ultramarines as your army was for characters. Sometimes they could outshoot the Imperial Fists and outcharge the Blood Angels, depending on the edition.
Sure.
It's a bit of a nightmare at the moment, to be honest. I won't lie. Victory Scarred is just just in.
Shame on you, if shame on you to those people.
But yeah, they do a little bit of everything well. They've how could I forget Space Marine 1? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that's just another thing they do. Captain Titus goes off to save a Forge World. He has 3 Marines. He does it. Thank you, Ultramarines.
Yeah, it's not like specific to the actual chapter.
Sidonis did die at the hands of a Chaos
Lord. No, one guy died after the Ultramarines butchered entire WA and Chaos Space Marines.
I feel like largely, even though we talked about that, they are amazing, they are like jack of all trades. In a general sense, when we're getting to like 999 M41, the status of the chapter is still a decline from what even their previous selves were just a few millennia before, let alone 10,000 years. So, I say some real special event comes up here, which I think Colin's going to talk about, where the galaxy's going to be split in 2.
It is, but,
and the chapter's going to change a lot.
I would really quick though, since you mentioned that, I think the thing that showcases their decline the most is the Tau Empire's existence, because this is like the jewel of the Imperium, right? This is the most prosperous industrial realm where they've lost the least amount of stuff. They can't stop a species of cavemen from forming a giant empire on their doorstep. So even the Ultramarines were doing good, but even they've fallen far enough that they couldn't stop that from just happening. Barbarians at the gates, as it were. And barbarians at the gates is a problem because it means they've gotten past the walls you've built to keep them out.
And even in 10,000 years, they've not... You're telling me you didn't improve your weapons and army for 10,000 years?
Yeah, no. The best they can say is it didn't get worse, or at least not as worse as everyone else.
Yeah,
they still stagnated.
Yeah, but that big ol' event, off in the corner of the galaxy, Abaddon throws a ship at a planet, giant Eldar ancient fortress thing that rips it asunder, cracks the planet in half. Into bits. Cadia has fallen. The Great Rift forms as the Eye of Terror, the Warp Storm turbocharges and spreads across the entire galaxy with like 2 passageways connecting it. And it's not looking great for the Imperium. If there's ever a sign of a chaos dub, that would probably be it.
It's like the zipper, between your balls and your anus. A chaos zipper.
Where do you get your zippers?
How has no one ever heard of that term before?
I know what you mean now that you put it. Yeah,
you wear your trousers back to front between what?
I know, the skin zipper.
Nah, like the little ridge on your nuts.
Oh, that's hilarious. Thank you, all the chat, for people who are having too much time enjoying the lore there. I wanted to really ruin it.
Yeah, like a little ball sack nut, zipper jump scare. The Eye of Taint.
Guys, what do you expect? You are having too much of a good time.
Yeah. So that's happening. It's not great. The Ultramarines, fun fact, do participate in the fall of Cadia, though. Not the Ultramarines chapter, just the Pokeballs Trazen tosses out, where he just has some great Crusade era Ultramarines. So there are some Smurfs at the fall of Cadia. That's fun. But for the Ultramarines themselves, they have some surprise visitors. Some important Inquisitors, some refugees from Cadia, And in the only shining moment of them achieving anything, the Ynnari, who, alongside Eldred, help bring back the Primarch to life. No longer locked in his stasis coffin to keep him from dying. Rabute Gilliman returns to
what would the Imperium do without the Eldar? Huh?
Die.
They do. Yeah,
Just
that's
to point
right.
out, this is in the Library of Ptolemy as well, so they managed to get that. The Black Legion got that far in.
The Black Legion. I mean, understandably, Abaddon heard the words Primarch waking up and went, no, I don't want that. Can't have that. So he threw everyone who hadn't, like by this point, all the traitor forces still listening to him because, Cadia fell. A lot of them were going on a bender, especially like the World Eaters, right? So he threw every force he could that was basically either not desperately needed elsewhere or would still listen to him. It was like, please stop that, which did not work. Gilliman calmly assesses the situation as he wakes up. I like the passage, isn't like everything is just dead silent as he comes out of like a door, as everyone just stares at him.
And his glare was hate. There was hate in his eyes.
Oh yeah, he was not pleased. The silence was broken by one very brave World Eater who got punched in the face.
I think he got cleaved in two by the Emperor's sword, because at this point, Gilliman still has the Emperor's sword.
I don't know why I always think he punched him to death.
Well, there was an older retcon of the Dark Imperium trilogy, wasn't it, where like Gilliman supposedly found the Emperor's sword on a random planet.
Yeah,
and then they moved. That's what I'm thinking of.
And then they changed the event so where like Gilliman had the Emperor's sword at the end, like during the Scouring. I think, did he become Lord Commander during the Scouring?
It was called the Lord Gilliman was the position.
Well, isn't it also the thing of like, did Cole? I think there was even a thing was like Cole brought it with him because there's that whole thing of the devastation of Baal. Dante keeps seeing visions of the Emperor on the throne, and then just before the Tyranids arrive, the sword is missing, and he's like, "Oh, that can't be a good thing." It's like
I can't remember which, because there's been such a few records. I can't remember which one it is, but I also have a thing of like Belisarius Cole's resurrection, using the armor of fate, which he crafted for Gilliman. It wouldn't have worked without the Ynnari feeding souls into Gilliman's thing. So Gilliman is actually, when we say like Gilliman is not like, we say resurrected. Literally, I think Yvraine tells him, "You were brought back to life. You died." So you did actually die, and the armor of fate just stops the poison that Fulgrim's blade is on his neck. Like it just stops that temporarily. But he actually did die, and then
Iron Man 1 kind of deal.
Yeah,
And for a while, he's like, "I can't leave the suit," and then they were like, "You can leave the suit now. It's okay."
It's just in spouts. But yeah, Gilliman is. I think it says in this scene, like they all stop because his eyes are full of hate, and they're all just like, "Oh God."
Yeah, like, oh, that's a Primarch, and it's not one of the ones on our side. Oh shit.
And then my favorite part, he just starts moving. He's like, duff. And he starts cleaving with the Emperor's sword pretty quick.
He goes to work, and sure enough, he does. The Black Legion and all the other tagalongs are repulsed from Macragge, and the Ultramarines now have their dad back.
I hate to interrupt. I'm doing it a lot this episode because this is so cool. When Calgar is like almost beaten to death, and then he sees Gilliman and him make eye contact for a second, he's like, "The fucking Primarch moves." And he's like, "Oh shit!" And
I've got an erection. I'm back. Yeah. I'm back in the fight.
And he's
so an ultra boner.
He's so near death that when Gilliman they're like, when it's settled, the dust settles, and they're like, "Oh my god, the Primarch's alive." And then Calgar hands over the control of the chapter and Macragge to Gilliman. He almost has to have help, doesn't he? Because he's like, "Get off of me, I can stand." And he kneels, as pretty weird for a 41st millennium Astarte to kneel before a living Primarch and be like, "Here's my chapter, Dad." Yeah. So pretty amazing. Pretty amazing scene.
You love me? I love you. Oh, good. Oh.
Stupidest part of the lore. They say Gilliman doesn't work out like Imperial Gothic has changed. He's a Primarch. He can understand it like within a second. Okay, stupid. Sorry, Colin. Go ahead.
He post-coma, he just woke up. He's still a little groggy.
Everyone's speaking. I mean, technically, Gilliman speaks in like the old ways with Shakespearean tongue. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah. So there's some teething troubles for the Ultramarines now, as
And then
Gilliman.
Calgar said, "Skibbity Riz," and the Primarch was like, "What? What are you talking about?"
He's like, "Here's the Mandem," and then Gilliman's like, "What? The what?"
That's the real reason he privately was the one day like maybe Horus should have won. He heard Skibbity Riz. He's like, yeah, oh yeah, it's over.
My lord, you've been out for 6-7 years. 6-7.
6-7.
Oh god.
But there's some teething troubles for the Ultramarines. It should be noted, as according to our Lord Prophet Matt Ward, Marneus Calgar was the spiritual liege of all the Ultramarines. They all looked up to him. Marneus Calgar's guidance had kept them strong for quite some time, as he's quite the cool dude. But now he's playing second fiddle, which in itself, like you said, he did give command willingly back to Gilliman. But for example, even Marneus Calgar, though he said we can't just purely follow the codex, Gilliman was like, hard to rewrite a lot of things. I got to update this book. We've been on the first edition for 10,000 years. We got to update this thing. Well, some of them weren't the biggest fans out there. Like, whoa, hey, settle down. We agreed we can change some things, but you're going ham on this. Also, there's a lot of things with relics, right? Like the Ultramarines, they have degraded what would have been just a tool in the Great Crusade has become some of the sacredest, most awe-inspiring pieces of equipment, sometimes just by virtue of Gilliman having touched it once. So he walks into office one day, and Gilliman just he throws out this old piece of notes he was working on. And they all like what the fuck are you doing?
Or if it's like I'm sure it's the Romans when they had when you go to the bathroom, you have the sponge on a stick and it's like dunked in vinegar.
No.
It's like the Primarch used this to wash his bum. Like, it is a sacred artifact. Like, oh no. Oh no.
The Gilliman sponge should not
please throw that away. Please throw that away. Oh my god.
Poop knife and Gilliman sponge.
Yeah. And they sure enough, Gilliman comes from that time of legend, and he might be asking just a little bit too much. As sure enough, Gilliman starts the Indomitus Crusade, the Ultramarines, of course, heading it. Rampage across the Imperium, try and stabilize everything. Tyranids, Orcs, and Chaos Marines, oh my. Which the Ultramarines, they do throw themselves into. But there are some problems. Marneus Calgar and, of course, now Captain Titus. Gilliman demands the 500 worlds be brought back anew. No longer will Ultramar shrink. Bring it back into one big sub-empire.
Daddy wants his house back.
Daddy wants his house back, which sure enough, even cool dude Captain Titus is like, hey, that's not happening, man. I'm going to try. That's not going to happen.
Because Gilliman, he breaks the code when he breaks the Codex Astartes, and then he makes like a tetrarchs, doesn't he? He splits Ultramar into 4 quadrants.
He does, because it used to be ruled like that in the Great Crusade, but then it shrank, so there was no need for those positions anymore. Now he's brought that back.
Obviously, so like Western Roman Empire and Eastern Roman Empire, except Ultramar's 4 because it's enormous.
Yeah,
but they have chapter masters who help.
Although fun fact, even in Rome, there was tetrarchy was the Roman system. There was 2 senior emperors and 2 junior ones. Space Rome, remember?
Oh, was it? Like there was a Julius and then there was an Augustus, wasn't there? They had like mini titles.
Yeah, and then so there was 2 of the main ones and then 2 sub-emperors.
Who would learn from the older one.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I didn't realize they linked it that strongly.
No, it's Space Rome. You will understand. Space Rome. So the Ultramarines are coming back swinging. They're a little bit, I'm tentatively... They're kind of on the upswing again. As it turns out, you can get away with legion building in the modern times if you're sneaky about it and are also a Primarch. The Lord Macragge, I do still believe that is still Marneus Calgar, just because Gilliman's, the Lord Commander of the Imperium.
He did give it back to Calgar.
Yeah.
And Calgar does...
Yeah. I can't remember what it is.
I think Calgar does speak at one point of his, like, this is what we were alluding to earlier. Like, he's embarrassed in some way that like Ultramar had fallen so low compared to like the 500 worlds it was before. Even like the Macraggian like personal guard, like they once fought off the Tyranids, and the current era ones are like fopping wet boys or whatever. Like he makes fun of them. So
yeah,
like
they rebel against him, and he's like, this rebellion was so shit that how bad is your training nowadays? Oh my god.
yeah, like it just shows like Calgar was almost like he understandably is like has an unreasonable resentment towards Gilliman because Gilliman exists. It proves how far they've fallen.
Yeah, that's some of the teething troubles too. They're measuring themselves up to what they once were, and they're not terribly happy with what they're seeing in the mirror.
Still doing way better than most other people, but you know.
Oh yeah.
And with the governance thing, I've just double checked. Their first captain, Agaman, he's also the regent of Ultramar whenever Marnius Calgar is away. And so, like, even the captains have, like, sway of entire worlds or even entire star systems.
Yeah.
Because they just have so much stuff. They have less than they had, but they have lots more than everyone else.
Still. So much, yeah. Their first captain can, in some circumstances, be stronger than just about every other chapter master in the Imperium.
And no one knows who he is.
Most planets in the Imperium, the chapter master, even if it's like a recruiting homeworld, they're not usually the leader of the planet. There's a planetary governor, but
there's still someone else.
The Ultramarines are the actual leaders of Macragge, which most of the chapters are.
At the end of the day, if they even, they rule Macragge, which is not very common. But that's why it's probably stayed so nice, because the Ultramarines guiding it kept it nice and good-ish. In the Imperium of Man, a 6 out of 10 may as well be paradise.
Bruh.
And so come that we get the modern Ultramarines, the blue and gold, and there are other companies with different color schemes, but who gives a shit seems to be the running theme of GW. Are there any questions or added things?
If you any last details we can think of? Actually, before we actually, I think I had maybe one I could think of with like things in Dark Imperium, which is they are adding on. They have like a who's the guy, Captain Felix, who's technically
he's now the 11th captain. Like,
so like I said, if you're sneaky about it or you have a Primarch, you can get away with Legion building.
Yeah, so they pretty much have changed. Again, the Codex Astartes is no longer gospel, shall we say?
Yeah.
Well, to some chapters, like the Space was like, I don't follow that shit anyway.
It wasn't gospel to begin with.
I never cared. Ha ha ha.
Archangels, what even is this? No, I think Faye, I think you covered it pretty good. I hope people who are listening have learned some pretty cool
something,
some extra details as well in there, which we've tried to add on in because Ultramarines are cool.
Oh, I guess one other ending fun fact: they used to be a traitor legion.
Is that in early?
Oh, very early lore. They were a traitor legion, and then other Space Marines took on their mantle to kind of, save the name.
Is this from early Codex lore? Because I don't remember. This is not novel stuff, is it?
No, this is from like Rogue Trader, like 2nd edition.
Damn, Codexes they've been changing quite a lot over.
Yeah, we've gone quite a ways from what 40K started as. Turns out, the Ultramarines used to be evil.
I think a cool thing. I finished on one last detail, which is I think the coolest alternate heresy thing is the one where Gilliman is the actual antagonist, is like the main version of what Horus is. The arch traitor. Ultramarines turning traitor would have been horrific.
Probably would have won. Probably would have won.
Probably would have won.
And won on time.
On time. I guess one other thing. One of the planets eaten by Hive Fleet Behemoth was the world of Sotha, which was a cardinal world. Nuts. Okay. Bro, I was going somewhere stupider than that. I can't judge. It was a religious world named Sotha, so I can't help but wonder if on this world, before the Tyranids ate it, was a tribunal and a 6th house with a tribe unmourned. Something shitty Sotha-Sil Morrowind Dagothar.
Wow.
Sure.
That was it.
I can't remember the details very obscure. Well, but I'm pretty sure there's also a thing in the Horus Heresy where the then chief librarian is killed by the Knights Errant or something like that because he's like, you didn't follow the Council of Nicaea or something, so they just like obliterate him. Like, lol.
That was in the Crimson King. He joined the Knights Errant, I think. He was
Yeah.
a previous one, and then the Space Wolves end up killing him because they find out he was culling Space Marines. So
Yes. Yeah.
they got rid of him.
This is there's so much Ultramarine content. Andy, there's an image I've sent you or put in the LoreCrimes. Our Discord. If that could be put on screen,
we'll put it in the edit.
Here's your equal attention cake, Space Marines.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
And the Ultramarines get the biggest slice of that cake, which is again, you can talk about Uriel Ventress easily his own thing. Marnius Calgar could too. Titus, each like the second company.
Barely even talked about Cato Scarius.
They could get their own episode of 8 one day.
So I mean, it's like it's where do I?
They mog the other chapters.
Before we add them, it's like these assholes have more books than most other chapters.
Or even small ones like Torias Telion, who's like, I'm a sergeant. I'm just a scout sergeant guy. It's like, yeah, he almost killed old One Eye. He hunted him down, kind of. Didn't take.
Do you know what, Colin, will be good to finish on? Just a brief explanation of, because we said it a few times throughout the episode, like what is theoretical and practical, and like what's its actual use in? Yeah,
that is how Gilliman and indeed how the Ultramarines try and basically weigh everything up and see how they're going to act. Like the theoretical is kind of like, okay, here's the situation I'm in. Here's how here's what we're going in with. Practical, what are the ways we can take care of it? So I guess like you said earlier, theoretical. The traitor legions there are traitor legions now. Horus and all of those legions have turned against the Imperium. Practical, get Aenid Thiel out of jail and let's start running some exercises and figuring out how to now fight Space Marines.
I do remember a cool part, which is in the Ventress novels, where they mention how it's a thing that comes in and out of fashion, that sense of using that way of thinking. And I do the most poignant example I think of is when we mentioned in the Heresy of Imperium Secundus, when they cut off from Terra and they want to make like a second Imperium. The reason Gilliman does it, he says, like, I think it's like the theoretical is that Terra's been destroyed. Yeah. Or like either it's like Schrodinger's Terra in some sense. Yeah. Either Terra exists and the Emperor is fine, or it doesn't exist. The practical is what can you practically do with the lack of information, which is it basically continue the Imperium in a sense of if the Emperor does exist or is fine, then you can just dissolve Imperium Secundus. If the Emperor doesn't exist, then therefore you've continued the Imperium. So that's the whole point. Like theoretical and practical is. Theoretical is what is possibly going on, and practical is what you can actually do.
Yeah, that's they take a very measured approach to everything. They're like, okay, what's the possibilities, and then what can I actually do?
Yeah, cool stuff. I like that. It's one of the
quite nice.
Better Legion and chapter thinking in the entirety of like Warhammer lore. Obviously, I know it doesn't come compared to like Necron or other like extra things, but it's like a cool little human thing, don't be an idiot. Think about it.
Use your brain, please.
They want to grab that.
Yes, I have stuff from that. Good. So our question was something akin to what makes you rage, or what do you see when you get the Black Rage? It was something like that.
Good question.
So hashtag Black Rage. First one from UESC Durandal, very topical. Whoever it was that decided Chiron had to die in a community post, rip Chiron. He was cool. Rarest Pepe, shout out. He says Matt Ward, just Matt Ward. We love Matt Ward here on LoreCrimes.
We love Matt Ward.
We love Matt Ward.
Good fella.
I haven't read that much of his stuff.
He's been through enough hate online. Leave him be.
My only friend, the end 4958 hashtag Black
and
Rage.
The diabetes.
And Eli still hasn't read Peak Tau lore. I donated so you could get the Coil Omnibus. There's a short story where a crew murders a train of guardsmen. It's peak. That sounds lovely. Do I have to read the entire omnibus just to find the one short story with Talor?
Get it on Kindle, just like search.
I'll look it up right now because I honestly don't remember that. But okay. Oh yeah, I guess it's my job. I guess I'm reading the questions. Sorry, I'll look that up later. Jidge29 # Black Rage. Anyone who wrote an Eldari book, that's who you'd see. You'd see a lot of Gav Thorpe. Fair enough.
I think you would. Would you fight Gav Thorpe on the street?
He seems like a nice enough guy. He should have just stuck to writing codexes. Alaric plays games. I would see the people who hated on the Death of Hope animator as well as other Warhammer animators until they stopped making Warhammer animations. Rip Death of Hope. I should have just kept doing it.
Yeah, I think he. I mean, obviously, it's amazing animation. I think he took more of it to heart, as in, like, I think it bothered him quite a lot.
You can't be posting on YouTube and not be ready for criticism.
Yeah, I mean, to feel like we've all done this for long enough. Where like I remember it bothered me in like the first month or two when someone told me like to go end myself. But
you
know what I mean, just for trying. But you know, it just happens online. So you know. I still get some funny ones where like there's one guy who keeps commenting being like, this effing website won't let me comment because he keeps writing the foulest things about me.
Yeah, my friend Cole, some of you might know who Cole is, used to comment on my videos all the time, and after like the third video I posted, he was banned from commenting, and YouTube wouldn't let him comment any more stuff.
The amount of people who say the N-word is crazy.
Dark Coil Damnation. Dark Coil Damnation. Where's the actual? There's novel series. All right. I'm looking into this.
And we did have another question of the week, and I hate to say this, for the life of me, I've forgotten it.
It was #Codex, wasn't it?
Well, Firecast. Yeah, I'm gonna read Firecast.
Oh yeah, I think our question of the week was, what would be in your Codex Astartes? And I mean, going around the group, guys, what's like a funny thing you would put in
it's
your
not
Codex?
original, but I would say like it would be first page. You do not when you're making a cup of tea, put the milk in first. Instantly taken to the Inquisition to be turned into a servitor. That's how that works. You've got to pour in the tea. You put the tea bag in, then you pour the hot water, then you take the tea bag out and you put the milk.
Are there animals who put their tea in the milk first?
Some people get the tea bag, put the milk in, and then they add the water.
That's like the milk before the cereal, but worse somehow.
Yeah.
It's culturally painful to see anything that remotely resembles that. Oh, God, I'm riled thinking about that, Andy. You really upset me.
You shall never take the treadmill beside someone if there's another one available 2 spaces away. If there's 3 treadmills and you're on this one, don't go on this one. Go on this one.
Is this like
I can have my personal space.
I hate
when my personal space is unnecessarily invaded.
I would say I had a really dark one there, but I can't say that one.
How you gonna say it?
No, I literally can't, because it's like I think of like crazy people I've seen on the street before. But I would say in my Codex Astartes is if you're considered annoying by enough people, you immediately have to be silent for as long as you've annoyed people.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I would be made silent for years.
If you charge too much for insulin, you think the Codex says you get shot.
Into the blender. That's what the Codex says.
You're going face first, funny man.
And I guess with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, for listening. Thank you for Colin for helming a lot of Ultramarine stuff, and for me constantly interrupting.
It's helping out. I don't mind.
And we'll see you guys very, very soon in the next one. Peace, love all.